Welcome back to the Budget Gamer channel, where we bring you critical and in-depth reviews on just about every indie game we can get our hands on, and today we're going to be taking a look at Legend of the SkyFish, now out for Nintendo Switch. In all honesty though, it doesn't take long to even glance through the photos of the game to find that this one draws obvious inspiration from the classic Legend of Zelda. Reading its name, watching any gameplay, or even looking at the art styles could tell you that much. And getting into the story, it's also pretty similar there as well. In the not too distant past, our main character's people were a fishing people and overfished the oceans, diving deeper and deeper to try and find more of the ocean's abundance. But when they had outfished so much and reached down so deep into the depths, they woke up the SkyFish. And the SkyFish, of course, being the ocean's guardian, took out its vengeance upon all of the fishermen, turning them into its fishy mutant henchmen, who then were released to wreak their own havoc on the rest of the people. And in the midst of this fish mutanty torment, our main character, Little Red Hook, was tossed off into the ocean, possibly to her demise, where she encountered the moon whale, who became not only a fast friend and guide, but also her form of transportation, making it from point A in the beginning of the game all the way to the ending credits. And as far as the game's story or its lore is concerned, that's pretty much all we get, so we should probably just move into the gameplay. If you are a fan of The Legend of Zelda's hookshot in some of the later games, or maybe you played games like Flint Hook which use that grappling hook mechanic, you'll probably be pretty familiar with how to play through Legend of the SkyFish. Little Red Hook will not only be able to use her own fishing pole as her primary weapon, but also as her primary means of navigating through each of the levels. Casting her fishing line across gaps can pull her across to another platform, but her hook can also be used to grab blocks and pull them onto distant switches, as well as latch onto enemies, causing them to go into a bit of a stun so you can get a better whack at them. And while each of the game's 45 levels will make liberal use of these primary mechanics, you'll also be expected to dodge shooting arrows or maneuver through spikes in order to toggle dozens of switches to open lock gates to be able to make it to the island's end. Each of the game's 45 levels takes place on its own individual island that when navigating to the end, you're confronted with a totem toward the SkyFish. And upon destroying this totem, the level is complete and you'll move on. Sporadically throughout the gameplay and through the level progression though, you will encounter certain locked chests that can be bashed open with your fishing rod, and each one might contain a certain upgradable item, whether it's for your fishing pole, granting it new attributes like a longer cast range or even the ability to partially freeze enemies, or upgrades for your fishing hook allowing it to travel faster, or potentially upgrades to your hood or costume allowing you more armor or even the ability to kind of sneak past enemies. And given that not every single player has the exact same play preferences, that modicum of customization is actually really appreciated. All of the total levels though are organized into major overarching worlds with their own themes, and even though the themes don't really introduce any new diversity to the puzzles, they do introduce a boss at the end of each area. And while the random mob spawns can easily be defeated just by hooking them with your fishing pole and hitting them once or twice with the rod, each of the bosses will have its own unique attack patterns that might take a minute to figure out. Moving on from the game's actual mechanics though and onto the visuals for the environments are fairly impressive, and the animations for when you walk through plants or certain environmental effects are actually pretty decent. But given the repetition in the ending game animations, it does come across as feeling a little bit mobile at times. Moving from the visuals to the game's soundtrack though, while it's definitely not unappealing, the game's sound effects are a bit repetitious and did make me thankful that I could actually turn down that volume. And on that note of the repetition that's already come up a few times in the review leads us to the game's largest critique. Besides the fact that Legend of the SkyFish isn't difficult by any stretch of the imagination, not in its puzzles or in its combat, none of the game's 45 levels really introduces anything new. Occasionally there might be a new trap or a new way to damage an enemy, but essentially one look at any of the levels tells you how to navigate it, and all of the combat carries out the same. So after you get a good handle on the hookshot type of dynamic for the game, you've pretty much learned and experienced all there is to learn or experience. There's no more lore added to the game, and every single level ends with the exact same scene and exact same animation, and so the game just really quickly starts to feel like playing the same level over and over. And while I can definitely appreciate a developer's take on a Legend of Zelda game and the exploration of a new and unique dynamic that's honestly not often used in gaming, such as the hookshot, if the game is going to be incredibly simple, it might need to pose a challenge, and if it's not going to pose a challenge, it might need more emphasis on the story. And unfortunately, in the circumstance of Legend of the SkyFish, this one has neither. So while it could be a decent casual time sink to play for a few minutes at a time, coming back to the game day after day, you're not going to get anything new out of it, which could essentially be a benefit if you're the type of gamer who plays for 5 minutes at a time on their commute to or from work. But if you're looking for challenging gameplay or a sense of exploration or anything deeper on that introductory story, you're probably not going to find it in Legend of the SkyFish. But if you are still interested in the game after watching the review, it will still be on sale for I think another week. But that does essentially wrap up the review of Legend of the SkyFish now on Nintendo Switch, so if you enjoyed the review, or especially if you found it helpful, feel free to throw me a like or a comment to show your support. And don't forget to click that little bell icon when you subscribe to stay updated with the latest content. There are new and unique indies coming out literally every single day, so there's always going to be something new to discover right here. But anyway, this has been Budget Gamer, so as always, thanks for watching.